Well, good morning, everyone. We get together most weekday mornings, 8 o'clock Central, to spend a few minutes educating on this new grant-subsidized resource that we have. So we'll spend a few minutes going through it, and we're certainly here to answer any questions, respond to any concerns that you may have. And the best way to submit those is through the Zoom question and answer. It's kind of like a chat box where you can type the question in. So what we're here to talk about primarily is the Startup Business Funding Package. And this was developed with the input of a number of us that had worked at the SBA. We worked with a number of SCORE advisors as well as business bankers, because what we saw was a problem. And the problem is that there are lots of small businesses that often have a desire. They want and need capital, but in many cases, they don't qualify for it. And so that becomes frustrating and limiting and can be stressful. So what we did is we essentially created a checklist of what does it take to have a credible business? Because if we have a credible business, then we can be approved. But if we don't meet the underwriting criteria, we're typically declined. So that's exactly what the Startup Business Funding Package does. So let's spend a few minutes, go over that, and then certainly answer any questions that you may have. So as I mentioned, it's a grant-subsidized program. It's designed to be a turnkey resource to form a new business position for fast funding. Now, some of you may say, hey, I already have a business that's formed. That's fine. This will serve as, I think, a pretty effective checklist so you know what you need to do with your current business to be able to be fundable. And then conversely, if you would like to participate, we could even start a new business for you that's specifically for your capital raise. Now, please note, I'm reading off of the chapmanloanprogram.org. So if at any point you want to follow up, you can go to chapmanloanprogram.org. So as this think tank got together and we decided what should be part of this package so we could help any entrepreneur get qualified, their business qualified for funding. The first element, which as you notice is free, but the first element is having a unique business address. And this is a commonly overlooked element. The official address of your business matters so much in terms of qualifying for funding, especially larger amounts of business funding. What lenders don't like to see would be residential addresses, post office boxes, or even shared virtual office addresses like a Regis or a Rework. So I'm not saying that those aren't real addresses, because they are. And it's not that you couldn't have that type of address and run a business, because you could. But is that address limiting in terms of your ability to qualify for larger business loans? It is. It is. And if you want me to go deeper of why that's important, I can go into it. But just for the sake of time, I'll keep moving through this list. And at any time or any point you want us to delve deeper, just to make a comment, and we'll do so. So that's the first element that's included in the Startup Business Funding Package, is a true, unique business address. Secondly, we're going to file with the Secretary of State. And we just filed, I think, 2 new businesses already this morning. So that is something that's free. So the address is free through the grant. The filing with the Secretary of State is free through the grant. Once the Secretary of State has approved the business entity, then we need to turn around and get the EIN. And that is, an EIN to a business is like a social security number is to a person. It's a unique identifier. But that's free through the IRS website. And so that's not a barrier at all. Now, what's not listed on the page, technically the next step after the EIN is we'll want to go ahead and get the business bank account open, because we're going to want to be able to produce financials off of the business, which we're going to help you with. And that starts with having, of course, a business, but a business bank account. Once we have that, now we're going to go ahead and build out the credit worthiness of the business. So what does that mean? Well, think about when you first turned 18 years old. You didn't have bad credit, you didn't have good credit, but so you didn't have much borrowing capacity as an 18-year-old unless you had a co-signer, a parent, or someone. Well, newly formed businesses are able to access capital, but if they have a stronger credit profile, to no surprise, they can access more capital. And that's really what we're trying to do, is position a business that can get 6 figures or more. So at no charge, again, free, we're going to add primary trade lines under the EIN. So we have a strong Paydex score, which is through Dun & Bradstreet. Add trade lines over on the Experian business profile. So we have a strong Intella score. Business credit goes from a score of 0 to 100. If we have an 80 or above, it's good and good enough. And we don't need excellent, right? We just need good enough to accomplish our goal. Next, we're going to, and this is very innovative, this bullet. This is probably one that is less intuitive to you, so we'll spend a little more time on it. We're going to literally transfer over $10,000 of assets to your new business. You might say, well, what is that and why does that matter? Well, a lot of people think that a new business can't be fundable, it can't be credible, and that's not true. But we do need to spend a little time and effort positioning it legally and ethically so it does look fundable. And so we started with, the address impacts its fundability. Having a strong business credit profile affects its fundability. We've covered that already. But what we're on now is making sure that we have collateral. Collateral is what shows on the business's balance sheet, which will help you create, and that shows that you have money to be able to pledge it against the loan, because many lenders, especially for working capital loans, want collateral. So at no cost, we're going to transfer $10,000 over. If a client needs more assets than that, we can certainly add more. We add them in increments of 100,000 after the initial 10,000. So we could transfer over 100,000 more or 200,000 more. Again, just to simplify this, in general, you want a dollar for dollar available collateral. So let's say that your goal is to get $1 million in business funding, then you'd want to have $1 million of collateral. Or if you wanted $100,000 of funding, you'd want to have and be able to demonstrate $100,000 of collateral. Well, a lot of small businesses don't have that many assets to pledge, and that's what we do legally and ethically, is put those assets over. And then we also provide, and this is really nice, geographic access to the Chapman Fund. For those that are of you that aren't familiar, the Chapman Fund is a pool of money that comes from a taxing authority. So instead of going to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or alternative lenders, there are certain taxing authorities that has collected money, and they have that money to give out, to disperse out, to help start and grow businesses. But it has to be in their taxing district, right? Because they wouldn't want to fund somewhere else. So the Chapman Fund is an excellent resource. It's not the only resource for funding, but it's an excellent one. And we're providing geographic access to that based upon the business address that we're providing. But most things in life have their pros and cons, right? It's hard to find something that's perfect. So the downside of the Chapman Fund is it will only go up to $250,000. Now, if we need more than that, we can go after other types of funding, what we call tranches, other additional tranches, or even, I guess theoretically, you could have multiple businesses each applying with the Chapman Fund. But the bottom line is that the Startup Business Funding Package is outstanding. We're going to help you get your business positioned for funding. Now, again, I know some of you may already have businesses formed, and that's fine. So you can use this as a checklist and then decide, is your business credible and ready to go to funding? What do I mean by that? Well, do you have a good, unique business address? Is your business in good standing with the Secretary of State? Do you have strong business credit? Do you have plenty of collateral? If you have all those things, thumbs up. Let us know, and we can help you move forward to funding right away. You frankly wouldn't need the startup business funding package, but that's rare. Most small businesses are not credible on paper enough for funding. So if you have an existing entity, you can leave it as it is. We could form a new one that you use for your capital raise. Hopefully that makes sense. Some people say, oh, you can own multiple businesses. Of course, we'll use Elon Musk, who's a bit of an extreme example, but he has Tesla and he has SpaceX and he has what used to be called Twitter. Now it's called X. Yeah. So you can own multiple businesses, and those businesses can in fact be in other parts of the country. It doesn't have to be in your city or your county or your state. For those of you that are interested in participating here on chapmanloanprogram.org, we've made it really simple. There's a training video, which is right here, although we've kind of covered most of that already, but you're welcome and encouraged to watch it, and you can click here to enroll. There are a couple other resources that I have, and then we'll open it up for the questions that any of you may have. So our contact information is here, but that's not my point. Resources. So first resource, this is a duplicate link. This link here is the same as this one. So it's listed both places. If you need financing offers, you can click on this. Now, it looks like Anthony has a question. We got 3 Anthonys on today. No, sorry, 4 Anthonys. That's great, 4 Anthonys. One of the Anthonys asked, can you get financing without doing the startup package? And the answer, Anthony, number 2, is yes. And right here is the link to do that if you wish. It looks like Andrew's asking about some success stories. Absolutely. And so you'll find that right here on the 3rd link, Andrew. And then I guess Charles is asking about becoming a distribution partner, and that is available right here. So a lot of folks will come and just fill this form out, and that's fine, but it doesn't remove the need to enroll, right? So if you want to participate, you would need to enroll. All right, so let's go ahead and let's dig into the questions, comments, concerns that any of you have. If you'll go ahead and type it into the Q&A, it's like a chat box in Zoom. We'll go ahead and dig into those. And the first question is from Trevor, and he's asking back about business credit. So let's dig deeper. And Trevor did exactly as I asked. If there's something you want us to dig deeper in, let us know, and we'll go deeper. So when it comes to business credit, we want to add trade lines under the EIN. There's many different types of trade lines. We have, for instance, a $100,000 trade line that is unique. It's a $100,000 revolving trade line that is very powerful in terms of having a very strong credit profile. So that's one example of a trade line. We call that the 100,000. We can go out and get a company vehicle. I'm looking at mine right now. I think each of you should strongly consider having a company vehicle, because all of us probably need a vehicle. And if you have it in the company name versus not, of course, it's tax deductible. With Section 179 of the IRS tax code, you can even use accelerated depreciation and write off the whole amount, even though you're financing it up front. Don't want to get too deep in the weeds on that. And then, of course, a business automobile adds a really big trade line. Some of you are interested in real estate. We could go out and buy real estate under the EIN. That creates a really big trade line. We could add just simple net 30 accounts, Quill and Granger and those type. We could go get a business credit card that's under the EIN. So there's a number of different trade lines that we can help you add, but we'll work with you based upon your preferences and needs. I'm a really big advocate. I'm not going to push you for it. I don't sell cars, but I'm a really big advocate of getting a business vehicle, because It can be great for marketing. We can get it wrapped if your business would be suitable for that. Again, and then most people need transportation. So when you go out and you add a 60, 70, 80, $120,000 trade line to your credit profile, that makes it strong quickly. But we'll assist you with that. And that was Trevor's question. All right, so let's move on. Quantrell's asking about turnaround time. So again, if you're already fundable, if your business is already ready to go, based upon this kind of mini checklist we've gone through, you frankly don't need the startup package as much as we'd love to have you participate. So in those cases, you would just go on down here and we can go right to financing today, right? So that's fine. And there's many, many different types of financing that's available. So that's one option. If we need to, if you want to plug into the startup business funding package and we need to build out everything, then yeah, we're looking at a 30 to 60 day process to check those boxes. DeAndre asked, if you have a business, it sounds like you need to start another. Well, and that's my fault, not yours, DeAndre. If you have a business that's credible, so one of the things that we have to do, I think we should do, that was worded poorly, I apologize. What we should do is not think about do we have a business or not, but do we have a credible business that's ready for funding? And if we do, skip all of this. It's unnecessary. Go right here and let's go to funding, right? But if we don't have a business that's credible for funding, then we're not probably ready for business funding. Then start here and click this. Again, I understand some of you are somewhere in the middle. You have a business that exists, but it doesn't really meet all the criteria to be fundable. Well, you could either follow this guidance and go do it yourself, or what I would recommend, go ahead and enroll, and let's do the capital raise off of this new entity. Again, like Elon Musk, there's nothing wrong with you owning multiple businesses. Thank you, DeAndre, for that. Trevor says he's glad that we have the 100,000 trade line back. Yeah, so we had launched the trade line earlier this year, and then we had to switch entities that was doing the credit reporting, but we're good there. Joseph's asking about his FICO, his personal credit. Well, Joseph, what we're trying to do is move away from personal credit and get business funding. So what we want to have is a strong business so the business can qualify for funding. So we're not here talking about how to get personal loans, although personal loans are an option. We're here about how to qualify for business loans, business funding. Quantrell then follows up about the 100,000 trade line. Yeah, so the $100,000 trade line is often a resource that we'll bring up when we're working with clients. So once we get to this point, we can decide how do we want to build the credit worthiness of the business. Just like I said, do we want to buy real estate? Do we want to buy a company vehicle or vehicles? Do we want to get business credit card? Do we want to add net 30 accounts? And of course, then we have the 100,000 trade line. So those are all different resources that we can explore there. All right, let's move on to the next question. Let's see. Some of these are redundant. Okay, so but with Ron's question, I'll paraphrase it. When we have a credible business, which is what we're creating through the Startup Business Funding Package, we're not limited to just one type of funding. So we talk about the Chapman Fund, and I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. The gentleman that runs it used to be my employee. We both used to work for the SBA. Great option. But please don't infer that this is the only place that we could go for funding. We could go for SBA loans or non-SBA loans. We could go after revolving loans or lines of credit. The point that I'm trying to make is we need to have a credible and fundable business. And I'm frankly giving you kind of the checklist of what it takes to have that. We need to have a good address. We need to be compliant with the Secretary of State. We need to show on paper that we've paid our bills in the past by adding some trade lines. And we need to have collateral. And so it's what many of us learned in school called the 3 C's, and that's what we're providing here. Joseph asked if this program is available in Ohio, and yes, we help clients all across the country, frankly, all across the world now. So we have many, many, many international clients that are enrolling. So with that, if any of you have questions, you can always reach out to us directly. I think we worked through most of those, but here's really your 2-step process, and it's here on chapmanloanprogram.org. Visit the site. Step 1 tells you to watch the video. Step 2 is where to enroll. This is the action step. This is what we need to do. We need to enroll, right? We need to enroll. If you don't want to enroll, but you need funding, then of course, that's this button here. Many of you were referred to us by some of our referral partners, so you'll want to go back to them, and they'll help you with that process to implement. For those of you that might be interested in being paid to be a referral partner, again, distribution partner, that's the bottom link. Well, awesome. Thanks everyone for your time. We do this now. We hold this normally every weekday morning at 8 o'clock Central. So you're welcome to come back tomorrow if you want to hear the story again. If you have others that you might want to invite so you could get paid for them enrolling, you make it's not get rich quick, but you make a simple $1,250 for each person that you refer into the grant-subsidized program. So I have a number of you that are referring in multiple per day. The average referral partner refers in 1 a day. So it's not get rich quick, but if you do $1,250 times 30 times in a month, it's not a bad side income. But again, that's not our purpose today. But if you are looking for extra income and want to help people, that's available. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a great Monday. Bye-bye.